We begin again. Renewal. Just like each breath is a renewal. And a sense that life's trajectory has now deposited you here and now in this moment. To give 20 minutes of attention that's inwardly turned. And there's a sense of kindliness to oneself, and an intention to create a better whole, which is what integrity means. So that sense of being able to settle down and settle down into your base and calm up and open yourself to all that we share. We share the support of the earth, we share the support of the air, we share the same beginnings, origins. At the close of the last session, we considered the awesome nature of the moment of conception. So that sense that from that moment, when you began to exist, to this moment now, the trajectory of that, that quite rapidly after that moment of conception, cells proliferated and then quite rapidly form sheets or plates, process called lamination. And again, quite soon after that, this extraordinary folding process begins, and the first fold creates a tube that's called a neural tube, but it's your spine. And right at this moment, that first fold is still there in the center of the disc that separates each unit of the backbone. A tiny little hole down the middle. So our beginning can just allow your attention to spread and take in the fact that there is the center of you, and the center of you connects to the center of the earth, pinned as we are by the force of gravity that acts equally on all of us. So use what you know now about this process of settling in and using the energy of the breath to spend a few breaths just centering yourself, and coming back to that sense of the center of yourself, as being that hole through the middle of the spine. Nothing within the structure could be more central than that. to help your attention to center and find that inwardly turned focus. As we did in the last session, place your right hand on your breastbone, on your chest, and the lower one around that belly, solar plexus area. So you have another loop of connection through your hands to the physical energy of the breath as it kind of moves in and out. Maybe having your hands there to feel the movements can aid and support your attention in maintaining its soft breath focus. So we've been thinking about creating an actual space from a potential space, just simply by softly expanding the space at the end of the out-breath and before the beginning of the next in-breath in the cycle. So with your hands in that position, not losing that sense of centering of your backbone, supporting the movements of the ribs. And with each of a dozen or so breaths, open that space up. And allow your hands to drop palm upwards into the support of your lap. Perhaps the presence of your hands in that position has left something of a kind of after image, like a bright light produces an after image. At birth, your skin can take in something of the order of 20% of the body's oxygen needs. So literally the skin breathes, which is why they put premature babies in a oxygen incubator, because the lungs are not working, not developed fully. So take in the whole extraordinary surface of the skin. Without losing a soft focus on where your hands were. If you follow the journey of the breath, it does indeed touch every cell, sinew, every corner, every one of those trillions of cells are fed and nourished and nurtured. So while we can work in quite a site-specific way on the movements of the breath, the entire field is always there in kind of soft focus. So I'll invite you to put your hands back in that position. For maybe a dozen or so, the space of a dozen or so breaths. And this time, focus on everything that is opening to receive the breath above your right hand thumb. Which is a roundabout way of saying that nothing happens at the beginning of the in-breath in that upper pole above your right hand. So that possibility can now expand the space where you're looking forward to, with gratitude, the upcoming in-breath. All that upper pole does is to open to receive it. You might take in that opening to receive is an utterly silent, still, quiet event. for example, if I was now to make something very active there, I could do. So the sound that you hear there is the sound of the nostrils constricting. So the passage of the air, restricted as it is by that, makes an audible sound. But the much more integrated, deep and nourishing breath is still and silent in those regions above your right hand. You may also pick up that on the out-breath, the breastbone under your right hand drops. And it can continue to drop as the in-breath commences. In fact, you could track the point where it starts to lift and then just pause there and notice that if you went on, it would be lifting the upper part of the chest, which in the present restful circumstances is not necessary. Okay, you can let your hands drop. But again, perhaps they remain there as a kind of sensation of warmth and maybe even energy. So we touched briefly into the issues of alignment with that sense of the tiny hole through the middle of the discs of the spine, being a thread that connects to the presence of gravity and the support that gives, enters into the movement of the ribs. So to end with, we're going to spend the last few minutes following the journey of the breath. So the air that we all share, that's diffuse, becomes something quite different once it enters into the structure of the body through the nostrils. Remember that opening smile. The free, silent movement. Really, we only get to follow the breath to the inside by the membranes of the lungs. It crosses those membranes where it's purified, cleansed, and nutrified. And prepared to be circulated. So, in a very real sense, the breath touches every cell in the process of feeding and nourishing. Deep within the structure, the body is always, in an ongoing sense, dealing with invaders of all kinds, viruses, but also at times dealing with wayward cells that maybe have gone on a kind of proliferation crusade. Apparently this is continually happening. So at this deepest and most central of levels, the opening can allow the breath more freely to flow, to nourish. But also the interesting possibility of not, when it deals with cells that are wayward. So for sure the touch of the breath can deal with that possibility, is dealing with that possibility. So we've used the directed current of the breaths to follow it on a healing journey. And now we can make the return trip. Why not make that return through the center of the spine? So there's a kind of lively, invigorated, renewed sense of bringing your attention back to outwardly turned affairs. So that return to the nostrils with a quiet smile of satisfaction for a good job done, and that will end the session.